Joseph was just a young dreamer, the beloved son of his father Jacob, yet the most hated among his brothers, not because of something he had done, but because of something he carried inside. Sometimes, the weight of what God places in us becomes a burden for others who still don't understand the timing of the promise. Joseph dreamed, and his dreams were not ordinary. He saw stars bowing before him, bundles of grain bending in his presence. It was as if heaven itself whispered, "You were chosen." But the world around him wasn't ready to handle someone who carried such a great vision. And that's where the pain begins. Because those who carry a divine promise will inevitably face rejection. Joseph wasn't thrown into the pit because he was bad, but because he was marked. His brothers sold him into slavery. They stripped him of the tunic his father had lovingly given him, but they couldn't take away what God had placed in him, his identity. You may lose your home, your name, your job, even your freedom, but if you carry a promise from God, it cannot be sold or destroyed. Joseph was taken to Egypt, and even as a slave, he prospered, because where there is a faithful heart, God reveals himself. In Potiphar's house, Joseph grew. He was upright, trustworthy, and everything he touched was blessed. Until injustice came knocking, Joseph was falsely accused and thrown into prison, a place where dreams usually die. But even there, in the darkness, Joseph never stopped being who he was. There are moments when everything seems to go against us, when all we live through appears to deny what God has promised. And it is in that very place where God molds us, forges our character, and tests our faith. Joseph was imprisoned, forgotten, silenced, but never abandoned. In prison, he interpreted dreams, even when his own seemed distant. Because those who serve God don't stop sowing, even when the field seems barren. Joseph interpreted the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker, and for 2 long years, even after the cupbearer was released, Joseph was forgotten. But God never forgets. When it's God's time, no prison is strong enough to hold back freedom. How many times have you felt forgotten? How many times did it seem like God gave you a calling, but your life moved in the opposite direction? Joseph went through that too. He had a promise, but faced situations that contradicted it. And still, he did not complain, nor abandon his essence. He remained faithful, because true faith is not measured when everything is going well. Faith is tested in the dark, in the silence, in the forgetting. And it was in that place that God worked in Joseph's heart, preparing him for something far greater. When Pharaoh had a dream that no one could interpret, that's when Joseph was remembered. God's time had come. In a single day, he was brought out of prison and taken to the palace. And when he stood before Pharaoh, Joseph didn't seek recognition. He said, "It is not in me, but God will give the answer." And with that, he was exalted. He received garments of authority, the king's ring, and the responsibility to govern Egypt. Joseph was positioned by God, not by influence, not by human merit, but because God honors those who remain faithful, even in pain. But Joseph's exaltation wasn't just about him. God placed him there to preserve lives. Egypt would face years of famine, and because of the wisdom given to Joseph, the nation was spared. And more than that, his family was saved. The very brothers who sold him now came seeking food. They didn't recognize him at first, but Joseph recognized them. And there, he had a choice. He could have taken revenge. He could have made them pay for every tear. But those who are healed by God do not seek revenge, they embrace. Joseph wept, not out of rage, but out of compassion. He revealed himself and said, "I am Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt." And instead of vengeance, he offered forgiveness. Instead of punishment, he offered bread. And he acknowledged, "God sent me ahead of you to preserve life." He understood that everything he had lived through, the pit, the prison, the betrayal, was part of a greater plan. What seemed like chaos was divine strategy. What seemed like pain was preparation. What seemed like abandonment was God building his destiny. How many times have you been thrown into a pit? How many times have you felt trapped in situations you didn't deserve? How many times have you felt betrayed, rejected, unjustly treated? Joseph's story reminds us that all of this can be part of a purpose. That God never wastes pain. That every tear has meaning. That every phase has value. And that, in due time, God exalts. If today you feel like you're at the bottom of the pit, if you feel forgotten in an emotional, spiritual, or even literal prison of this, God has not abandoned you. He sees it all, and in His time, He will lift you from that place and lead you into your purpose. But until then, remain. Stay honest, even when no one is watching. Keep serving, even without recognition. Keep interpreting the dreams of others, even when yours seem forgotten. because at the right time, the same God who saw you in the pit will place you in the palace. God never forgets his children, and he never forgets a dream he himself planted. Joseph was not just an example of resilience but of faithfulness. He showed that it's possible to endure pain and still come out with a clean heart. That it's possible to be betrayed and still forgive. That it's possible to wait for years and still believe. Because when we trust God, even prison can become a path to destiny. And when we look at Joseph, we don't just see a man who overcame. We see a God who never fails. A God who turns tears into ministry, who turns abandonment into testimony, who turns rejection into healing. Your life can follow this same path. Maybe you're still in the pit, or maybe you're already in prison, waiting for someone to remember you. But believe this, God has already marked the day of your release. He has already written the chapter of your victory. Do not rush the process. Do not question the silence. God works in silence but never in vain. What he is doing today, in the hidden place, will be revealed tomorrow before everyone. And when the time comes, you will understand that it was all worth it. Every tear, every no, every waiting season. Joseph would not have reached his destiny if he hadn't gone through it all. And you won't become who God intended you to be unless you let him shape you through the process. So don't give up. Don't surrender. Even if it looks like everything is over, remember, God is still writing. And he writes stories no one can erase. Your ending will be filled with honor. Your testimony will bring healing to others. Your life will be an answer to someone's prayer. And your faithfulness in secret will be seen by the God who rewards in public. If this message spoke to you, if Joseph's story touched you, say a prayer right now. Give God your forgotten dreams, your deepest wounds, your unresolved pain. Ask for healing. Ask for guidance. Ask for peace. And declare, Lord, even in the pit, I still believe. Because that's the kind of faith that moves heaven. That's the faith that makes God rise on your behalf. That's the faith that changes destinies. And if you're reading or hearing this right now with a heavy heart, with a weary soul, maybe thinking of giving up, know this message didn't come to you by accident. It's an answer. It's help. It's a breath of life. It's God himself saying, I'm still here. And I'm still taking care of you. Maybe you feel dirty, tired, too wounded to keep going. But God isn't looking at your outward appearance. He's looking at what's still beating inside. And if there's even a thread of faith left, he will breathe into it and reignite the flame. He doesn't need much. He just needs you not to let go of his hand. And even if you already let go, even if you stopped praying, even if you stopped believing, he remains faithful. Because God's faithfulness doesn't depend on ours. He doesn't change because you changed. He doesn't give up because you fell. He is a father, and a true father will go to the bottom of the pit to rescue the child he loves. Joseph went as low as a man could go, but when he reached the bottom, he discovered that the bottom of the pit wasn't a gravity, was God's launching pad. And that might be exactly what's happening to you right now. What you think is going to bury you, God will use to lift you. Don't let pain erase the promise. Don't let time steal your hope. Don't accept today's silence as the definition of your destiny, because the same God who is silent is the God who answers. And when he speaks, everything changes. He changes your mind, your strength, your vision, your path. And when he acts, no one can stop him. Joseph spent years being prepared for one single day, one moment, one call, one open door, and everything changed. God doesn't need much to exalt you, he just needs the right moment. And while that moment hasn't arrived, he's preparing you. Because a destiny without preparation becomes destruction. But when preparation precedes the promise, the throne stands strong. You may feel small right now, but God already sees you as great. You may be broken, but he already sees you whole. And what he's doing in you today, even if no one notices, even if no one applauds, is eternal. Because everything born in pain and watered by faith blooms in the right time, bearing fruit that never withers. Your tears are being collected. Your prayers are being heard. Heaven is not silent, it's in motion. It's working in your story, taking care of every detail, opening what needs to open, closing what needs to close. Don't stop. Don't retreat. Don't give up. Keep standing, even if you tremble. Keep believing, even if you cry. Keep walking, even if you don't understand. Because the path to the promise isn't paved with comfort, it's paved with purpose. And if you're walking through pain, desert, or rejection, that doesn't mean God abandoned you. It means he's training you. He's strengthening your roots. He's cleansing your heart. He's teaching you to depend on him alone. And those who depend on God are never without direction, never without strength. never without a way out. Because the God who calls is the God who provides. And when it all comes to passandit, will you'll remember these words. You'll remember the time you almost gave up. You'll remember the day everything felt dark, but you decided to keep going. And you'll see that it was worth it. Because what God is preparing for you isn't small. It isn't shallow. It isn't ordinary. It's great. It's deep. It's eternal. It's for you and for those who will come after you. Just like Joseph, who didn't he just feed himself, but an entire nation. You too will be used to provide for many. Your life will be an answer. Your story will be proof. Your faith will become a legacy. So, lift your head, wipe your tears, breathe deep, look to the heavens, and declare, even if I'm in the pit, even if I'm in the prison, even if I don't understand, I still believe. Because that kind of faith moves the hand of God. That kind of faith makes the invisible become visible. That kind of faith turns the impossible into reality. And just like it was for Joseph, it will be for you, not by strength, not by influence, but by grace, by faithfulness, by love. Because God never forgets the ones he has chosen. And you, my dear, have been chose. Amia Qdem.